these pots and ladles could talk, you know what they'd say? They'd say. Well, we're about to do an interview with Sue Charnes, another owner of the Wildflower Cafe, and here's another Wildflower Cafe sign. The logos always change, but the name always stays the same. So here's Sue. Oh, hello everybody. This is Sean Powers. I'm doing a series of interviews about people that have been owners or previous owners of the Wildflower Cafe, right? We've heard a lot about the Wildflower Cafe. For myself, it's been here as a restaurant since 1987, a vegetarian restaurant. And the thing about the restaurant is that restaurants have varying histories of longevity and consistency. You know, sometimes a building is a building until someone moves in and turns it into their own life. And that's what's happened with this place. This is the Wildflower Cafe. And it's been the Wildflower Cafe, as I said, since 1987. And this is Sue, who is Sue Charnes. Is that right? Charnes?
Charnes with an N.
With an N, Charnes. And she is the most recent owner of the restaurant. And I have a series of questions I ask them, and they all start with WH, except for how, which starts with H and ends with W. But my transitions are all about WH. And so my first question to Sue is, who are you?
I am Sue Charnes, as you said. I'm an East Coast raised, but been living in Humboldt County for 16 years now. Pretty silly individual, but hardworking. And I've been here at the Wildflower for 15 years, and owning it for a decade this month.
15 years. And so you worked here first as
a barista, as a cook.
And you always just did that.
Yeah. An Humboldt State alum, Cal Poly Humboldt alum as well.
Yeah, okay. So that's why you came to Humboldt County.
Pretty much.
To experience Humboldt County, go to school.
Yeah.
And what were you studying in school?
Communications, public
Communication.
speaking.
And what?
Public speaking,
Public speaking. So right now you're
trying to remember all the
put your
rules.
degree into action. Learn to enunciate your vowels and your N's and your M's and all that stuff. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that has been pretty helpful in running the business.
Yeah, always communicating one way or another with lots of different individuals, from customers to business partners, to staff, vendors, all the different facets of people you work with and have to kind of interact with in a different way.
Right. And what I'm going to go from who you are, because I think that's been covered, is what gave you the idea that you could actually run a restaurant?
I've always worked in restaurants since I'm sophomore in high school, and always found the pace and the style of work to be fitting to me. And I think a lot of people that have had lots of jobs kind of always have that idea of like, I could do this better than my boss, or I have an idea that would, I could do this, I don't know. And I just held many different positions in a bunch of different restaurants and felt pretty confident that I had what it takes to run the place myself, which I did in a lot of ways. The challenges were surprising, but you learn as you go. But yeah.
But it wasn't by yourself.
No, I have
a
a business partner, Jay. Yeah.
Jay, yeah, and a couple of the owners, they all had partners in the deal, except Melanie, who was the first owner.
Uh-huh.
And I remember asking her, what got you through all this? And she said Doug. And Doug was her partner at the time. And Doug would come in and fix things for free.
Yeah.
And he would be like, don't worry about it, I'll fix it. And so that's what got her through it. And since I'm kind of focusing on the idea of women running this restaurant, but it's not been all women that's been running the restaurant.
Yeah.
Connie and Darcy and you yourself all had partners. What did that do to your partnership as far as like being friends and
your
relationship?
It's been a very interesting ride and pretty cool story, really. We Jay and I met at HSU. We were friends briefly when we started dating, and then we were a couple for 4 or 5 years. We bought the restaurant in 2013, and we broke up promptly 1 year later. But we remained business partners, and our friendship took a couple years to hone in on, but now we're the best of friends. I feel like he's a brother and family to me. And it really strengthened, fortified our business partnership because, yeah, we've seen it all with each other. So really,
Yeah, big deal.
yeah, it's like family. So,
And I'm sure there was points when I was like, oh my God, I have to go into there and be around this person.
yeah, I mean, we had to like imagine, breaking up with an ex and still having to talk every single day, even when you don't want to on an emotional level and you hate each other, but you have to be like, did you order the eggs? You just have to do that. And it pushed us into unique territory that I think most couples or exes don't go to because we were forced to do that. Sort of like co-parenting would be, I'd imagine, which I don't know, but I think that where you're both focused on the common good of something else, that you're forced to kind of swallow some of your own bullshit to
and
make it work.
What do you think it did for the restaurant's transitions? That having the relationship and then having a relationship that was sour.
There was volatile moments. I think our staff was just comprised of a lot of friends, being that I had worked here prior to owning it, and there was just a lot of support in a cool little family way that we have here, especially at that time. That made things easier. People were pretty forgiving, but Jay and I have always tried to at least some degree keep it professional.
Right, because you got a lot online.
Yeah.
This is a community spot, and
right.
And the community sees everything that goes on.
Definitely, it was interesting to feel like everyone kind of knew our business. But then that's just an invitation to be like really authentic and honest and forward with people, and not disconnect your humanity and your personal self from your job.
Right.
Especially when it's something that interacts with the community. So I think it served us in the long run. There were definitely volatile, vulnerable moments, but
yeah, that is an interesting aspect of owning a restaurant together, or any kind of business, is your personal relationships. And that's been a big deal with, because I've worked here for 20 years through 4 owners, and so I've seen all the transitions that happen.
yeah.
And I kind of feel like I've always been a part of it, and I knew what was going on way before anybody else was, and I was kind of like an elder in a way.
Yeah.
In that that I had answers to questions that someone might not have known, like, oh, how did you do this? Or even though I was only a dishwasher,
Right.
I kept my finger in the pie, as they said,
Yes,
at all times, because I like the pie here. And what was the transition like from Darcy and Pat to Jay and Sue?
Well, yeah, as I said, I was working for them as a cook at the time, and Jay was my boyfriend at the time, and he was looking to either buy a home or buy a business, and he was actually perusing Craigslist and saw the restaurant up for sale, which as a staff member we did not know, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy, and initially got mad with Pat and Darcy and asked to speak to them right away, and Darcy and I had a really lengthy conversation where I think we came in really different angles and finally saw eye to eye in the end. And when the conversation was over, I said, okay, also I'm super interested in buying the place. And that was 10 years ago, I think this month. So things just kind of set into motion from there. Those are some of the hardest parts that, like, before actually officially buying it. All the paperwork and coming up with money and figuring out what we were going to do. There was a month or so period where Pat and Darcy and Jay and I knew that we were going to buy the place, but the rest of the staff didn't yet until it was sort of finalized. We didn't want to announce it. So it was weird coming to work every day and sort of participating in the gossip of like, what's going to happen? I heard someone's interested. Oh, yeah, I wonder who it is. And people were postulating. No one really suspected us at all. But then there was a lot of excitement from the staff because they were a lot of friends of mine and coworkers of mine, and everybody kind of jumped on board to make some of the big changes we were wanting to make, both in the dining room and physically, and also to the menu. And yeah, people were excited for change. And for the most part, I think there was some resistance to me being the boss after being coworkers with some people, or me bringing my boyfriend in and being like, okay, this guy's your boss now.
Right.
But overall, fairly smooth considering all those factors.
And I'm going to jump to how, which is HOW. How did you pull it off?
I don't know. Financially, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pat and Darcy were amazing to carry part of the note, to carry a loan for us over the course of the next few years so that we could pay off some of it. Yeah, Jay had a bit of money that he was looking to invest, like I said, from some investments he had made, and was so amazing to invest on me and the fact that I was like, I can do this. He had been managing the GameStop at the Bayshore Mall at the time,
right.
And so he was not really having restaurant experience at all, but he did have some management experience, a good amount of that, and just, was excited about food and excited about me, and we were excited about doing it. So he put a lot of money on the line, and then Pat and Darcy carried a note. We took a little bit of funding from here and there and made it work. And,
And that must have been pretty challenging to wrap your head around it.
Yeah, definitely. It sort of moves into this space where you are managing a lot of money. Like, none of it's really ever ours. There's so much going in and coming out. But I was 28 at the time, to all of a sudden just be responsible for all these, 15, 20 people's paychecks, making sure bills are paid to 15, 20 vendors, and taxes and all the things. It's like, so used to it now, it sounds silly to say that, but that was a big challenge for me at the time, of just the pressure and the responsibility of managing all that.
Right. And I'm going to jump to what did you do for the restaurant to make it yours and Jay's?
Well, we gave the dining room a bit of a facelift, and we changed the colors and the paint and all that. So that just sort of felt like kind of clearing the space and making it shiny and new for us. We both collaborated on several menu changes. There's a good amount of stuff that's on the menu now that were my recipes or Jay and I's recipes, or combinations of Tony's things and other people that were chefs here at the time. So that definitely made an imprint. And I think also we just, from the get-go, we were both, not so much now, but we were both just here all the time, working shifts, we're cooking, serving. Jay began baking and learned and mastered how to make all the bread here and all the baked goods, and we just kind of started to bring our energy to the table, which I love Pat and Darcy dearly, but Jay and I just have a really different energy in the way we carry ourselves, our presence in the dining room, or the way we interact with staff. I wouldn't say one's better or worse, but it's just definitely different. So there was a noticeable shift in just how things went in the dining room here, and I think just younger clientele started coming in. But there also has been so many shifts in the world of vegetarian food in the past 10, 20 years that shifted the type of clients that get here too. So.
Right. But veganism has gotten really big.
Yeah, or it's just an option for people, whether they're vegetarian or vegan or not. The way that you might go for Chinese, or you might go for sushi, or you might go for Mexican, you go for vegetarian. It's like an option. It's not just for people with a specific diet like it was 20 plus years ago. So.
And another thing about the restaurant that I've always noticed is that the crew is a certain type of people. What did you have to go through to find the right people for your hiring process?
It's just been a lot of trial and error over the years, but we do seem to kind of know right away when someone just starts, after a day or two, once they've been trained, the details of their job, just how they interact with the rest of the staff, and kind of clicks. I always say we can't be cliquey, but like there ends up being a level of that of like if you kind of vibe, so to speak, with the staff here, it really flows in a way that has been around for longer than me, which is why I try to honor that in a sense. Like there's an energy, there's a vibe that attracts certain people here. I also, if a good worker suggests or vets a friend or another person they've worked with or something, I'll always take those recommendations. I learned that from Darcy. That's how I got the job here. Was I had friends that worked here, and that's worked for the most part in kind of curating that same vibe of people, same like-minded folks working together.
And what would be why would you hire somebody?
First off, they just have to have experience. It's hard to find good hard workers, and I like to see when folks have had jobs for a longer period of time, knowing that they're down to stick around. But after that, it's just sort of interactions. In an interview, we do working interviews and just have you come in and work a shift and see how it goes. And yeah, I can sometimes be a tough cookie as a manager, so when people can meet me and look me in the eye and talk to me and feel comfortable with that, that's always like a solid sign for me. Sometimes you don't find out for a while somebody's not as great of a worker as you thought they would be, and that's the reality of it. Some people are really good at selling themselves initially.
Right.
And sometimes I'll go, man, I had a gut feeling about that person, but that was my only thing. Like everything else was in place, and it's hard to just be like, I don't have a good feeling about you, to get out of here, But that's a skill you hone over time.
Yeah, and because how is the action of doing something. How would you tell somebody, hey, it's time to move on?
I've done all different versions of that, from get out of here, you're done, yelling at someone, not too often, but it's happened, to sometimes other politely trying to cut someone's hours down to just a few hours a week and knowing they'll need to find other work and move on if it's not too egregious or something like that. But we haven't had to fire too many people over the years. And sometimes the reason is so obvious and it doesn't, I don't know, just kind of say you're done. Or sometimes it's been mutual, where someone sort of, there's an explosive moment and then someone's quitting at the same time. It hasn't happened too many times. We've had pretty good luck on that front.
And where do you find your ideas and your recipes and the food that comes into the restaurant?
Yeah, ideas and recipes definitely is like from all over the place. From traveling I've done and that Jay's done, from just, different food media things. You take in things on TV or the cookbooks that we read or on the internet, and just cooking together. For many years we learned a lot about things that we like, and we often share recipes with one another when we see things that are in that tune. And then just focusing on veggies. We have such an abundance around here that allows us to kind of be inspired when it's like, okay, we know that beets are super cheap and in season right now, and there's an abundance of them. Okay, that like forces the creativity. We try to think, how many different ways can we use a persimmon, and we get surprised. Just have our chefs rise to the occasion with that type of stuff too. We like to keep a little list in the back of like special ingredients to use that are outside of the things we normally have, that can be inspiring for soups and special salads and whatever specials we're trying to do.
And I'm gonna hop to what what is the percentage of local products that come into the Wildflower Cafe?
In the winter, not very much at all. But in the summer, about half our produce. Yeah.
Half, yeah.
It's certain things are tough to supply on volume and consistency if we use it a lot. And all the like dry goods and all the other things. If we're speaking produce, in the summertime when things are abundant, our broccoli and all our leafy greens and all that stuff is coming locally. We get local sprouts for, we push certain things for as long as the growing season will go around here.
Right. That's kind of a where question too.
Yeah.
Like, where do you get your products? And
from a few farmers here, and then also Veritable Vegetable is an organic wholesale vegetable vendor that's in the Bay Area that can source organic stuff all the time, which is a really important aspect for our customers. That's like a lot of the reason we use the company is that they're looking for organic produce, and that even in the middle of winter, we can get you an organic tomato and put it on your sandwich. And, which there's a lot of ins and outs there of what's better if it's coming from so far away and all of the footprint. But our customers are definitely consistently asking about organic products and what's organic and what's not.
Right.
It's become for sure a focus for us, especially on produce, to make sure or especially just with certain ingredients that seem to be more important than others, where we take priority in that regardless of where we have to get it from. So, and a lot of other stuff comes just from the natural food vendors that you find at the co-op. And,
local people.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do as a restaurant owner to keep your sanity and to keep the things that keep you cool?
Yeah, I mean, the business partnership is really the savior there, that between the two of us, there's someone to handle things. Usually it's both of us when we're around, but if one of us is just having I can't today, I'm not.
Right.
We are really good at saying, okay, no questions asked, I'll fill in, because just in the long run, it's shown that being able to do that and being able to say that it makes me a better boss, partner overall in the long run, to be able to and that's one of the perks, we don't bring in a lot of money, we don't have a very extravagant lifestyle being restaurant owners, but what we do get is time and the ability to kind of take time when we need it and want it, especially in balance with each other, which for me is a big perk and a big motivator for me to be productive and effective when I need to be, knowing that I get the luxury that a lot of other people don't get, which is says, I'm gonna sleep in today because I just wanna, So that's lucky and something I'm continually grateful for. But yeah, just getting away in the same way. We both try to check out, leave town when we can, recharge in whatever ways work for us individually. Just my normal self-care practices keep me
Drumming.
Yeah, music, exercise, yoga.
That's kind of a funny thing about this restaurant. At certain times, it wasn't what skills you had when you worked here, but how many bands you played in.
Oh yeah, what music you're gonna play in the back there. There's definitely a subculture. I mean, music has been a strong vein there for sure. We've had many different workers and business owners here that have music degrees.
Which is interesting, because I'm more interested in the social aspect of a business, not as a part of the business part of all the number balancing and all that. I'm more interested in the social aspects of this place, because there's always been a lot of love here that flows between all the workers and the patrons.
Definitely.
And why do you think that is? It's a WHY word.
Yeah, it's just sort of this culture that I think there is an underlying energy and vibe that's sort of outside of each individual that attracts and just repels certain people and attracts certain people, and it feels, sort of like you've mentioned, like it's alive in its own way. That I don't know, there's a little bit of a mystery around the answer to that question, right? Definitely some of it has just been some really cool people who have worked here, really cool people who have owned the place. They, attract other awesome beings that are patrons and staff members, and there's a strong overlay between customers and workers. We've had a lot of people who come to work here who've been eating here for a long time.
Right.
People who work here and then they graduate with a degree and go get a job in their field, and they still come and eat here every weekend.
Right.
So in that way, the loop is closed in a way that I think is part of the pride and integrity. I think people generally are stoked to say I work at Wildflower when they're out in the community, and you get a good response. There seems to sometimes be a reputation that people are like, oh, I've heard about you guys are great, or you have fun, or whatever, like in a way that almost I don't know, like, and that way it is kind of alive in its own way. So
it definitely has its own life force.
Yeah,
and the vegetarianism is a life force in itself.
Totally.
And it draws energy towards it.
Right, part of it being a noble endeavor.
A noble endeavor,
yeah. It keeps some integrity there, that the people that are attached to it, whether they are intentional about that or not, they kind of still reap the benefits of being involved in that. I feel that way. For a long time, I felt like I was driving someone else's ship, that I'm in charge, I bought the place, I'm running it, but I don't know, this is bigger than me, this is separate than me. And over time, I've felt more in control as time goes on, and I recognize I am, but there is still something of it, just sort of at the helm of something that kind of would cruise on its own, seems like, you know.
Well, yeah, the name itself carries something.
Yeah.
And you could be a total jerk and own a really nice restaurant.
Yeah.
And people might not know that because they're still following the name and not the staff or anything like that.
Right, there's different currents.
And another why question is, why would anybody want to do this kind of a business?
Yeah, people do. I am, you know. It's challenging, you know, we always, at least in the chef and cook world, we say you have to be a little bit of a masochist to go through it, because it just, you know, it hurts a little. It's tough, it's hard work, it's fast-paced, underappreciated, but there's a pride in that, of showing up. There's a feeling of being kind of like an athlete or a rock star, and that, like, you handle something that's difficult, you work together as a team, and you know the show goes on, you get it done, you pull it off. Like, each day is a new gig, and you're kind of working with different challenges. That part it's very dynamic. You're not going to ever come in and have the same day.
That's right.
You know, depending on where you are, maybe if you're in the dish pit, you're just washing the same 20 dishes again. But there's still something new, something different each day, each year, each month, new challenges. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, it's not, like I said, big money maker, but there's a lot of perks. There's a lot of community aspects that I love. Trading with the community is amazing, and
if you're hungry, you can come and get something to eat.
Yeah,
and not have to worry about having money.
Take that for granted sometimes, and I have to realize that it's not even close to many people's reality. And when I look in my fridge at home and I go, meh, I get in the car and I come here and I make myself a stir fry, pour a glass of wine, and I go, okay, this place is an extension of my living room and my kitchen for sure. I spend, especially in the past couple of years, I spend time here by myself, and I like that. It's a comfortable home for sure.
Yeah, it has all kinds of sounds and noises and familiar
smells. Yeah, absolutely.
And the question I've asked all the previous owners, which is a pretty important question, because there's been like a 12-year limit or time frame where people start to be like, oh man, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah.
When do you feel like it's going to be time to move on? Like, what are going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. We've thought about it a few times. We talk about it here and there. I think we both have an idea that maybe we have more purpose individually in life. Like to think something like that will present itself, but I don't know. I think you might have to kind of chase after this thing, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's a weird question to ask now, because
I mean, it's valid though. We sometimes talk about doing it, and then we fall into a rhythm of things going well and are kind of on cruise control, and I feel like I could do it indefinitely. That is a comfortable way of life for me. And it's something I know. And there are other days where I'm like, anybody want this place? Come take it now. But I think that, if either one of us are ever having a big life change, we would discuss it when we're moving or wanting to change careers, or I don't know though.
Well, that was the big question for all the other owners, and
Yeah,
a lot of
having
times
kiddos, right?
it was kids.
Yeah.
They had kids, and they had to focus on their children
Right.
and transition out of the restaurant because it was time consuming. And you don't have kids.
You don't.
And
You don't plan on it as of now.
yeah,
So,
zero population growth.
yeah. I
So
have
yeah,
a
the when is like a mysterious question right now.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm always saying to myself, long live the Wildflower Cafe.
Yeah.
You know, because we all know, like I was saying, it's a life force in itself. And I can't say that about a lot of places.
Yeah, I agree.
Physical buildings. This used to be the town,
Town
the-
books, yeah.
the bookstore.
Town books.
Yeah, and before that it was a bakery, and before that I don't know what it was, but a lot of transitions have gone on, and we're going to end this conversation about the Wildflower Cafe with my last WH question is whatever you want to say to finish this conversation.
Whatever I want to say. Come eat at the Wildflower. No, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be here. I've learned a lot about myself and my relationships, and all the things I thought would be easy were hard, and all the things I thought would be hard were easy, and just unending life lessons in working in this world, in this place, and yeah. That's about
And maybe
it.
you can give the address and the phone number.
Oh, sure. It's like on G Street, 1604 G Street in Northtown, Arcata, and 707-822-0360 is how you can call us.
Say that phone number again.
707-822-0360.
That's the number it's always been. It's just like
Yeah.
my house number that I grew
From a
up.
kid,
I'll
oh, yeah.
never forget it, you know.
Not too many of those left with landlines that have been here forever.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the Wildflower Cafe, and this is Sue, and she's the now owner of the Wildflower Cafe, and been owning it and working here for 15 years now.
Been here 15, owning for a decade, for 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And like I said, long live the Wildflower Cafe. We don't know when it transitions into something else, and maybe it never will. And this is what I like to say to everybody out there: to come eat at the Wildflower Cafe, vegetarian restaurant since 1987. And Sue, you can give a wave to the universe for me, please.
Okay.
Physical wave, yeah. A grand salute
Yeah.
to everything that this place is, and we're in it right now. I'm going to pan around.
Pan around.
I'm going to pan around. There's the kitchen. This is the dining room. They put this dining bar recently, which looks really good. They put the lights in, and there it is. Chairs up. Nobody's in here. Windows have always been here. Those shelves weren't always there. The fan wasn't always there. The heater wasn't always there. But that doorway has always been there.
Yeah.
And the smile has always been there. So let's give it another thanks and praise for the Wildflower Cafe. And there's their unwritten on menu board. Thank you very much, Sue.
Yeah, they do.